Yeah, how do you face challenges and overcome problem? I'll give you a few steps of what I've been doing like recently that's been helping me overcome a problem in my workplace, in my business, in my personal life. Just taking these few steps and they've been helping tremendously. And then this is like a very little thing, very minimal change. And if you can do this like every day, not every day, just 5 days a week, just 5 days a week, if you can follow this routine, repeat these steps, I would show you towards the end of this audiobook what you would have achieved. Now, the first thing is you should say to yourself, if you're having a problem, whatever you're going through, just sit yourself quietly and ask yourself, what is the one thing that I do that I am most successful at? The one thing that you do that you're most successful at. Looking at yourself, you would say, is there one thing you would say that you've done that has brought you to your current situation, either successful or unsuccessful? Like where you are today, if you've had failures or setbacks, how do you deal with them? How do you deal with your failures and setbacks? When you have problems, do you run to ask people, search Google, talk to people who are practically in the same situation, could never help you? Do you look for outside influences to change, or do you resort to internal? I will tell you this is the few steps I take, and I've learned this from listening to motivational speakers like Jim Rohn, John Maxwell, Robert Russell, and I've been practicing this for over a year, and it has helped me tremendously in every field. And some things I've noticed, like I have no interest in these things really, and then I've moved on and focused more of my energy in what I'm most successful at, and I can, have more productivity. And these steps have also assisted me in understanding, like, okay, these are the things I do that help me become successful. And if I can repeat these things 80%, sometimes I really don't have to focus on the 20%. Because sometimes we do so many things, we just don't know what brings us the greatest reward. So what I'm saying to you, just take a minute, look at yourself, get a blank piece of paper, and just write down the problem or the situation or the circumstance right at the top of the page. Just write it down right at the top of the page. If you're on your own, if you're with a team, if you're a partner, and you guys are trying to fix this, just write the problem on the top of a blank piece of paper. And when you've written that, just highlight it, and underneath that, just write 10 steps, like number 1 to 10 underneath that heading. So if you're your own, just find a quiet place, sit there, have a pen in your hand, and just stare at this blank piece of paper. Try to get rid of any obstruction like your phone or your whatever you is gonna like get your attention away from just focusing on this problem. Just focus. All you need is problem. Get away from every social media, because these days most people spend a lot of time on social media, just like lagging, wasting time, probably being like very unproductive. There's a research done, like most people spend like almost 80% of their day on social media now. So that's like time wasted just surfing through someone else content, what other people are doing, rather than trying to focus on what you can do and let other people see what you're doing. So then, okay, we've gone back to I was distracted for a second there. So we've gone back to writing down the problem at the top of the page. Now, underneath this idea, sit quietly on your own or with your group, your team, your strategy team, or whatever, and just think of 10 ideas. Trying to write 10 ideas. Everyone trying to come up with your own idea. 10 ideas. Just write whatever idea comes into your head. It doesn't matter, regardless of how useless this idea may seem. It does not matter. What seems useless at first might maybe after a few discussions might seem valuable. So just write it down. Whatever it is that comes into your head, just put it down on paper. That's all. The first task is just trying to get what you think about, how you can fix this problem, how you can change the situation. Just put it down on paper. That's all you need to do. Put it down on paper, on a blank piece of paper, you know, and write as much as you can. You could start with maybe 5 ideas or 10, 15. How many ideas comes into your head? It doesn't matter how ridiculous this idea might seem. Just write it down, put it down on paper. And I'm telling you, all you have to do is like, if you can spare yourself 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, just have a blank piece of paper, sit next to it, get rid of all distraction, and just write down ideas how you think you can fix this. And I'll tell you one thing, 1 hour a day might seem like a very long day. Remember, you have 8 hours a day to work. You go to work 8 hours a day. Research has shown from that 8 hours a day, you probably work just like 20% of the time. Like the other 80% of the time, you're doing something that doesn't actually contribute to your success. Only 20% of your time contributes to your success. So what I'm basically telling you is like, you have that 1 hour a day to spare. But the problem is like, that 1 hour a day is so focused, it's so concentrated, and that is the biggest thing, because they say the hardest thing in the world is to think. This might sound ridiculous to you, like I think every time. No, you don't. You do things natural, mundane, monthly tasks, weekly tasks, they just happen. But to sit and think about new ideas is like the most difficult thing. And that's why we've got like the top 5% in the world, the top 3% in the world. Those are the people who sit and think about, how do I do something different? How do I start something different? If something has been done this way, how do I do it a different way? And that's the thing. Like, for instance, if you're in a job and you've been told what to do, you probably never outgrow that position. But those who come up with the ideas of how to do things rather than being told how to do, those are the people who get to the top of the ladder. Those are the people who climb the ladder. Those are the people who becomes the boss. Because being paid for what you've been told to do, of course, you are very, very replaceable. But if you're the one that comes in with the ideas of what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, then you're priceless. And that's what I'm trying to get into, a position where you could sit and think about what needs to be done, what needs to be changed. And this doesn't just happen in a day. It needs to be built over time. It's a process. And the thing is that many of us will never realize this, that you actually have to program your brain to start thinking. You have to force yourself to get into a thinking mode. Just like when you have a game face or something, you have to actually, persuade yourself to get into a thinking mode. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. It might seem like the most difficult thing when you start. When I started, I couldn't even do 15 minutes. I couldn't do 15 minutes. It was like a whole day. But now I could do 2-3 hours just sitting there, no distraction, and just looking at a piece of paper with something. Now I don't do it with just problem. Now I just pick an idea and say, I'm trying to find a solution to this. You'll be surprised, you'll be amazed the amount of ideas that comes in to your head by just thinking. The act of thinking. You might have like 200 ideas, and maybe just one might be useful, and that one could be what makes you. That one idea could be what separates you. That one idea could be what puts you among the 3%, among the 5%, among the 1%. Just one idea. And I'm telling you, if you could do this 5 days a week, 1 hour a day, by the end of the year, listen to this, by the end of the year, you would have committed 10 ideas a day equals to 50 ideas a week. Embedding your goal in your mind subconsciously, subconsciously, your goal by you thinking about these ideas, by you thinking about these ideas repeatedly, 10 days or 10 ideas a day, you having 50 ideas a week. And this, like, just 5 days. You don't even have to do this on the weekend. Just 5 days. And imagine if by doing this you've taught yourself how to think. now these ideas are embedded in your mind, in your subconscious. So even when you're not even planning to think about ideas, your ideas become free flowing. Naturally, you start thinking about how to create ideas. You become a thinking man. And I tell you, the top 3% in the world are all thinking people. They come up with ideas. That's what sets them apart. They come up with ideas, then they get the likes of me and you to carry out their ideas. They are the thinking people. They are the thinking mind. So I'm trying to get you into this place to become conscious. When your subconscious becomes a thinking mind, you in a different class. You no longer wait for people to be told to tell you what to do. You come up with the ideas and tell people what to do. So 1 hour a day, 5 days a week equals 260 hours a year of thinking about a great idea. And you know the miracle behind this is with you having 260 hours a year thinking, you still have about 3,740 hours free leisure time a year. You still have 340 hours of free leisure time to do as you please in a year. So you're just utilizing 260 hours a year to come up with new ideas. And like, you might not always get 10, but one idea is good. It will be difficult at first, I tell you, but waking up and staring at a blank piece of paper, just like everything in life, with time it becomes subconscious, second nature to it. We overcome this and it becomes part of us. But if you can do this, it means you are practically thinking how to improve your life, how to improve whatever you are involved in. Whatever you're involved in, you practically thinking every single day, which is just less than an extra half, working week a year, thinking about ideas how to become the best you can in your field. Can you imagine that? This will be six and a half extra working week a year. 6.5 or 40 hours extra working week a year. That's what you'll be devoting to thinking, planning on how to improve your life, your businesses, your career, the people around you, your surrounding. Imagine being given that amount of time. But you have this. You have this already in you, So can you see how easy it is to rise above that difficult situation you are right now? You think could never happen, you could never overcome it, Can you see how easy it is to rise above the so-called competition? And you still have 7 hours a day to spend as you please, because you're just using 1 hour for thinking. You're just using 1 hour for thinking. You have 7 hours a day to do as you please. So imagine that. Therefore, there will be no competition. There will be no competition. Imagine, like, I remember when I was like 12 years old, playing a junior tournament, like 12 and under. That felt like the most important thing, like, to me. Like, the win or lose that day was like my life revolved around it. But now when I look back at that, it's like, oh man, come on, doesn't even count. It hasn't impacted or changed anything in my life, So sometimes some things we go through, it seems like it's the worst thing. It's like, if we win or lose, that's going to be the end of our life. But if you could just look back at, like, some obstacles you've overcome, things you've won, things you've lost, and where you are today, you have overcome. But what I'm saying to you, if you could take a record by trying to think about an idea every single day, how you can progress that idea, you're actually keeping a mental record. You're keeping a memo of yourself, of your life. Imagine what it would be like if you have another problem and you run back to this memo and check. You will be superior. You'll be like, so much. You'll be above the competition. You'll be in another world. And that's what I'm trying to tell you how to do. Start each day thinking. You will see that your mind would continue to work all day long, just, bringing out free idea. Just like, when you have an early morning workout before you go to work, you feel amazing for the rest of the day, because your body continue, just like, put yourself in the right position because you've started it. It's like starting a car. Once you start a car, it just runs. But first, you have to start it. So, one practical sense, you have to start your mind every day, just like you start your body, you start your car, or with a cup of tea. You have to start your thinking mind every day. Wake it up, put it into practice. If you start practicing this, when you start growing from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour, you would have set your mind. You will have set your mind into auto-tune. And when you least expect it, ideas will just be popping into your head at you each day as you go by. All you have to do is write them down. Once the idea comes into your head, make sure you write them down. Ideas will be popping into your head, just like when you're fishing tunas. Sometimes you get in the right spot, there's just so many tunas. When you like fishing tunas with string, you just hooking them on board, so many tunas like that. But they're just overflowing. Sometimes you will have a rush of idea. Why? Because you've programmed your mind to think. It's now in auto-tune. So once this idea comes, just keep writing them down. I tell you, you would sometimes a great idea will pop into your head and you forget it, and then that could be your life-changing moment. So when this idea comes, write them down. One idea out of 1,000 could change your life. If you remember, Thomas Edison had 10,000 hours, 10,000 tries. He tried 10,000 times to discover the solution, how to invent the incandescent light bulb. It was 10,001 that he eventually succeeded. Why? Because he constantly thought. As he thought a few things, what idea pops into his head. So what I'm saying to you, get yourself in the position of thinking. The same way you go to the gym and lift heavy weights, or you go to run trying to build your body, you should start trying to build your mind. You should start trying to build your mind the same way. In fact, your mind needs much more food than your body. Your mind is stronger than your body. Have you ever tried to listen to your heart rate? Sometimes when you're sleeping with your pillow, with your face down on your pillow, you would hear how heavy one single bar of your heart rate is. Your mind is actually stronger than your body, just like a car. The engine to a car. Without your mind, you can't function. Without an engine, a car is not able to. You can't drive a car. So you should feed your mind the same way you feed your body, and even more, because your body can only get you so far, but your mind could get you out of this world. With mind comes imagination. That's why people could write stories of where they've never been, make different imagination, see what's not there, dream big. Why? Because they've programmed their mind to do these things. 5 hours a week. Imagine being in a position where you are allowed to mine diamonds 5 hours a week, undisrupted. That's what you'll be doing whenever you decide to focus on your mind. That's what you'll be doing. Mining diamond, mining gold. Now I'll tell you this. 1 hour a day to think. Now look at this. If you've gotten to where you are today without thinking, or like they said, like, okay, human will use like just 5% of our mind. We just use 5% of our mind. That's the best human are doing. So imagine if you are here today with just using 5% of your mind. Then imagine what you can do when you start thinking and using more of your mind. Because when you start thinking, you're expanding your mind. You're growing, emotionally, spiritually, So when you start thinking, imagine what you could do when you start thinking and using more than just 5% of your mind. They say successful people are not people without problems. No, they actually have more problems than you do. Why? But they have more solution. They are people who have learned how to solve their problem. They have more problem. That's why people go to them, because they have more ways to solve the problem. So successful people are people who know how to solve their problem solver. When they have problem, they look internally, into themselves, into their mind. They don't run to other person. People run to them. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Start thinking about how you could solve your problem. For there's two types of people: those who run to people to solve their problem, and those who people run to solve their problem. I want you to be that person who people will run to solve their problem. Another thing I want to tell you about: don't waste time and energy worrying about needless worries. Don't do that. You know, don't worry about needless worries. There's a word from a philosopher says 40% of what we worry about will never happen. 30% has already happened, and we can't change it. We can't change it. We can't go in the past. They've already happened. 12% are needless worrying about our health, things that that's it. Just worrying about things that would never happen. 12%. And they say 10% are petty miscellaneous worries. Says the only genuine worry is 8%. Only genuine worry is 8%. And within that 8%, those are mostly things we can change within that 8%. So if we only have 8% to fix, imagine if we have 10 ideas for that 8% every day. So that's what I'm trying to get into. Trying to have this 8% overcome. You're above the competition, because those people, successful people, they only have to deal with this 8%, and they have solutions to it. So I'm trying to get you into a place where you would have the answer for this 8%. How do you do that? You think about, how do I have answer for this 8%? You write the problem top of the page, and you go to work 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, thinking about how do you fix this 8%. It's only 8%. Only focus on solving those problems within your ability. That's the 8%. The only thing in this world that can take you to your goal is in your mind. The effective use of your mind. The effective use of your mind through developing ideas and following through on these ideas. When your mind goes into auto-tune, it supplies you with ideas. By following through on these ideas is the only thing that can take you to the goal. Jim Brown says stress comes from doing less than is expected. So for every time you start something, you never finish it, then you worry about it. And what is worry? They say worry is from a Greek word which means choke. Like basically trying to choke yourself out. That's what worry is. It's from a Greek word which means to choke oneself. So for every time you start something and you never finish, you start worrying. Therefore you start choking yourself. So by having all these ideas and following through all these things, you probably never have to come across worry again, because whenever the situation arises, you're gonna have answer for them. You might not have it now, but you will have an answer before the day runs out. The thing is, like, because of some of us has failed so much in the past, but we forget that we overcome that, we overcame that, and we're here today. Sometimes, like I told you, I think about when I was on the 12, on the 14, playing some tennis tournament, and when I have problems today, I remember how I overcame that, because I have learned to remember what I went through and benefit from my past, win or lose. But some people always forget about that. They just think about today's problem. So each of us has the tendency to underestimate his or her own ability. We do. Just dig deep. That's it. Just dig deep into the problem. How do I fix this? How do I improve on this? How do I work on this? How do I overcome this? What can I do? Who can I speak to? And remember, they say it is within you. It's already in you. Just make use of it. Open it up. Don't let it get to waste. Don't let it go to waste. When you think about that idea, write it down. And when you write it down, try and follow it through. Because one of those ideas could put you among the top percent. Regardless of what has happened in the past, one of these single ideas might be the life-changing miracle you've been praying for, worship Him, sowing seed for. Everything could be just this one single idea. So when it hits you, please write it down and follow it through.